What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Trust the Bank podcast. This is the first segment here. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check out the podcast platforms to see the full episode, or you can wait for the next few days, and the segments will be coming out, each day, one a day. But Joshua, before we get into everything, how you doing, man? Bye week. We got to see a lot of football. No Ravens. We saw the Bengals lose. We saw the undefeated Eagles, or not the Bengals. We saw the Bills lose. The Eagles lose. Big weekend for the AFC.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, I feel pretty good. It's always a breather, even though I miss watching the Ravens play, but it's also still a good thing, not being at the edge of your seat watching the Ravens play. Ravens fans, if y'all been a Ravens fan, y'all already know what I'm talking about. But I mean, like you said, man, we got to see the Eagles lose to, those Commanders. They did that 2 years ago against the 11-0 Steelers too. So they have a way of ruining parties. So I love what they do. Josh Allen, I know he was in the talk for MVP, but I mean he's been choking lately. I mean, all I see is the AFC is still up for grabs. I still see the Ravens if they do what needs to be done. I see the Ravens versus the Chiefs in that divisional conference game.
Yeah, and for the Ravens being able to have a bye week and have a team like the Bills lose, putting them at 3 losses, making the Ravens, Bills, and Miami Dolphins all tied really helps out the Ravens because the Bills and Dolphins still have to play each other one more time. The Bills and Dolphins have a much more difficult schedule. So it helps the Ravens in the AFC standings. That's huge. We didn't have to see the Bengals play. So the Bengals weren't able to gain any ground on the Ravens because they were also on a bye week. But the bye week also, like you said, Joshua, not being able to watch Ravens football, it's tough. And we get to miss out on watching players dominate. And speaking of players dominate, let's get into the first question. We ask these questions, every time we record a podcast. This one's coming over from the YouTube community side. This one comes from Benjamin Turek. Says, how many sacks will Justin Houston get this week? And how many will he end the season with? Also, in general, the defense has been declining over the past 3 seasons. Do you think the defense is finally on track to improve?
I mean, in the Lamar era of him being a starting quarterback, that 2019 defense, I would say it was almost close to being almost like 2012. But they have been picking it up, having, Justin Houston pick up the pace. Also, JPP be able to come there, give Justin Houston a breather. And now you got, Adafio Wade, you're getting Tyus Bowser. You'll soon later get David Ojabo, maybe about early December. So, I mean, you're getting your guys for that front seven, at around a great time to play football. So I definitely feel like, I can see Justin Houston finishing off with getting 2.5 sacks this upcoming game against the Panthers. Now, as far as how many he'll end the season off, I can't say, but if he goes over 2.5, he's going to get drug tested randomly. Because I mean, listen, I love what Justin Houston is doing. I love the energy that he's bringing. But they did it to AJ Brown. They just recently did it to Kenyon Drake. When we finished playing against the New Orleans Saints, I don't see why. He's an older guy. He's 36 years old, and he's playing like damn near Terrell Suggs when he was that age. And Terrell Suggs was a different breed of animal. I'm just saying.
I think it's kind of funny because you look at the Baltimore Ravens and you go, wow, the Ravens haven't been able to get sacks. They haven't been able to have any players get a lot of sacks, right? And then you look at the top 3 sack leaders going into last week, and it was Zadarius Smith, Justin Houston, and Matthew Judon. All players connected to the Ravens. But the Ravens had a specific defensive coordinator that was like, man, don't give me edge rushers. I'm going to get them sacks. It's not going to be one guy. And that was Wink Martindale. Justin Houston played under Wink Martindale. Justin Houston was fine under Wink Martindale. He had 4.5 sacks under Wink Martindale. But then we go out and we get ourselves a Mike McDonald. And Mike McDonald, in college, was able to get great production out of Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo. He utilized those edge rushers. And we are seeing it this year. That is exactly what he's doing. He is getting the best out of his players. And he is recognizing that Justin Houston is still that guy that he was, you could say 4 years ago. 2019 with the Indianapolis Colts when he put up 11 sacks, right? He's not the guy, from 9 years ago putting up 22,
Right.
But he's the guy that can still get you really good production, and he has been able to maximize that. Justin Houston, in the last 3 games, 2+ sacks in each of them. Against the Carolina Panthers, they don't have a great offensive line. I expect him to get a sack because that's the type of player that he's been this season for the Ravens. And, looking at even just like the overall games he's played, he's only played 6 games. He's played 6 games. And he barely played. He played 6% or 9% of the snaps in one of those 6 games. So he's really only played in 5 games this season. And he is dominating. That's not just like speaking to him. It's propelling the defense. And it's funny because when did we not have him? We stopped having. We didn't have him against Buffalo. We didn't have him weeks 3 through 6. And the Ravens lost to the Giants in that span. The Ravens lost to the Buffalo Bills in that span. Mm-hmm. Those were games where we really could have used that pressure. And we're seeing how good this defense is with him because the Ravens defense looked amazing these last 3 weeks. And I know you can look at the overall scores and be like, well, the Ravens allowed a lot of points, a lot for like what I'm saying is like a really good defense, 20, 22, and 13. The Ravens had a shutout last week. Garbage time points don't matter. I know overall in the stats are going to affect. The Ravens played a great game of defense last week. They played a great game of defense against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They played a great game of defense against the Cleveland Browns. They are shutting offenses down. And it's not just, bend, don't break defense. They have situations where they get into the red zone and they make a play. But it has been 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And we've seen it against every type of team. We've seen them force 3 and outs because guys like Justin Houston are able to step up. Because getting a pass rush, which we haven't had unless we blitz under Wink Martindale, we haven't had that. That was the problem. Why can't we beat the Chiefs? Why can't we beat Mahomes? Well, because we can't get pressure. And everyone blamed Lamar, which makes no sense because it's the defense that was always getting killed by Mahomes. Like Lamar played great against Mahomes always. And it was like, well, what happened? Oh, well, the Ravens had to send all-out pressure to be able to get it. And then, look at that. Tyreek Hill is running wide open. Or Mecole Hardman running wide open. Or Demarcus Robinson running wide open because we can't get pressure. We can finally do that. How good is this defense, Joshua?
I definitely feel like this is a Super Bowl bound type of defense. I definitely feel like this defense can get us in the playoffs, and we can make a deep run. And you know what? We're getting spoiled. You know why we're getting spoiled, McConnell? We got 2 of the best playmakers, one on defense, one on offense. Roquan Smith and Lamar Jackson. Even though they on their last year of their contracts, we got to talk about contract extensions when the season's over. Let's enjoy this. Let's enjoy this time while we got it, and let's Ravens fly. Let's fly. In the words of Jay Tuck, So I mean, I'm loving it, man. And having a middle linebacker like a Roquan Smith with the rest of these guys, a Tyus Bowser, even though Daffield Wade's looking better. Justin Houston, JPP, Calais Campbell, Travis Jones. Hey, my interior guys, Justin Matabike and Broderick Washington, they're really coming into their own now. PQ, he can go to that will linebacker and really just let it fly, let it rip, and get to it now. I mean, we getting spoiled. I haven't even talked about the secondary yet. I don't even think I need to talk about the secondary. We know what we're working with. Yeah, I mean, we got Marcus Peters. Yeah, Chuck Clark, sometimes injure his own teammates. We're going to work on getting them on out. But even Kyle Hamilton, he's been progressing every week. He's been looking good. Geno Stone, I know he ain't been making a big splash, but he's been doing his thing. And when Marcus Williams come back, I know the young man in Philly, he's leading the league in interceptions. But when Marcus Williams come back, he's going to reclaim his title. Marlon Humphrey's playing good ball. He's manning up. He said, "Yo, I need to tighten up on the best receiver on the opposing team. Let me do what I need to do. So we looking good all around. So I definitely feel like this defense can lead us to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it's like the Ravens defense has been good. I mean, always. But, Benjamin brings up like, oh, well, the Ravens defense, over the last 3 seasons has, kind of been declining. And it's like, okay, I agree with it that it's been declining, but the Ravens have also been trying to play a little bit differently. And their defensive philosophy changed when they went over to Wink Martindale rather than having Dean Pease. And now we see what Dean Pease is doing. I believe he's over in Atlanta right now, and Atlanta's winning games because their defense, even though it is not a good roster, has made some pretty darn good plays because they're running the football and they're playing good defense. The Ravens are getting back to that. Run the football, control clock, and that allows the defense to get more rest and make more plays and really stifle opponents, because stifling opponents is so much more demeaning than just getting an interception at the goal line. Because it's like when you throw an interception at the goal line, right, you can look back and be like, all right, but we got there. We put up 50 yards on that drive. When you go out there and you start off that game like that, the New Orleans Saints, it was like, dude, they've had like 10 plays in the first quarter and a half, and they've all gone for nothing except for maybe one got a 12-yard first down or something like that. Like, they're struggling.
Yeah,
there's nothing to look back on and like improve on. Whereas if you're allowing like big plays, okay, we got like in the Patriots game, they were moving the ball, and like they could build on that. Hey, give it to Devontae Parker. He's just mossing this dude named Brandon Stevens. Just keep throwing it to him. As in the recent games, once we got Roquan Smith, once we got Justin Houston back, once we have all of these pieces, and we still don't have Marcus Williams, we still don't have David Ojabo, but they're not being able to move the ball. So like I think it's like this is the best defense the Ravens have had in a long time. I think it could end up being better than 2012. It could be one of the top 5 defenses the Ravens have ever had. Obviously, nothing's gonna. I mean, it's basically impossible in today's modern era to come close to the 2000s Ravens because they were allowing like 10 points a game. Holding a team to like 15 points is like great defense now. I mean, heck, we played a great game of defense. We held them to 13, which is like a below average game for the 2000s Ravens. But like they're not just back on track, they're improving. And I think that's credit where credit is due. Mike McDonald has done a great job. And a lot of people were really concerned after week 2. And it was like, let's pump the brakes on the criticism. He's got rookie corners. He's got, all these people trying to learn this new system. And he has clearly figured it out. And all these players have gotten better. Kyle Hamilton is dominating. He's been fantastic this year. We got Roquan now. This is a scary defense that I don't know. Like, this is, you can make the argument, and I'm going to say this, when it comes to playoff time, if the Ravens stay healthy and they get their assets back, this will be the best defense in the playoffs. This will be the best defense going into the playoffs, right? There's good defenses. The Buffalo Bills, the Philadelphia Eagles, those are probably the top 2, I think a lot of people would say. The Buccaneers they're kind of sporadic with their defense. The Steelers, when they have TJ Watt, great defense. But like the Ravens, this is a terrifying defense because they are smothering teams. They're getting interceptions. They're getting sacks. It's like, wait a minute. Yeah, everyone's looking at them like they're not that good because they allowed, the massive comebacks. I think people pretty soon are going to stop being like, well, in week 2, they lost to the Dolphins, because they put up, 28 in the 4th. It's like, well, yeah. This is a different team than we saw week 2.
Exactly.